students will be a girl student. So every sports excellence admission channel will have roughly half and half girls, actually probably more than half, meaning we'll have one student coming into every branch as a girl athlete student, and the other person can be gender neutral. So potentially we could have more girls than boys coming through. In fact, this year we have 5 students who are already studying at IIT Madras. One of the girls was a squash champion nationally. She is studying computer science here. There's another boy who played tennis at the national level. He is now also in the computer science or in the AI program, I think. There's another boy who is from Delhi and a table tennis, nationally ranked table tennis player. Another girl who is a volleyball player in the School Games Federation of India, SGFI level. And a 5th student from Bengal, from Kolkata, who is a water polo and swimming champion nationally. So it was a beginning. The word got out a bit late. As you know, if this is a group of people that have invested some part of their time in sports and only one person has heard of it, clearly the word has not gotten out. But next year, don't be fooled by it. The word has gotten out. It will be competitive. Only the best sports people will now begin to find admission. Now, why would an IIT Madras do this? It is to show that IIT Madras is not only about technology and engineering. We want our students, our graduates, our alumni to be as well-rounded an individual as they can ever be anywhere in the world. That's the reason we want to create these channels that will bring in people who have invested their time in something. For somebody to become a national level junior squash champion, all of you know how much hard work it is. If somebody is putting that kind of hard work to keep their performance at that high level and draw laurels for themselves, they deserve admission. They deserve a chance in one of the best education institutions in the country. That's our thinking. Just to give you a little bit of a sneak preview, this is still news to come out, but you are one of the first groups to come to know of this. Next year, along with admitting 32 students in the Sports Excellence Admissions channel, we have also created a Culture Excellence Admissions channel. So somebody that has invested their time in becoming very good at a music or a dance or any other performing art form should find their way to a good education institution. And the reason we also require them to have at least qualified through the JEE advanced exam is because they are sitting in the same classroom as everyone else. We can't afford them to fall behind the whole group. So we want them to be in the ballpark of everyone else. But we believe this will have a great rub-off effect on the larger student population, not just at IIT Madras, but across the country. I can easily see some of the other IITs, some of the other education institutions beginning to do this. So when we have admitted 32 students into each BTech program class, 4 years of BTech, there'll be about 120 athletes here at IIT Madras who would have excelled on the junior nationals level. We don't want their sporting accomplishments to stop with just junior national accomplishments. Our vision is some years from now, maybe 10 years from now, one of these students should be part of an Olympic contingent going out of India. So not only are we admitting them, but we are providing them a platform by which they can continue to play their sport. Again, balance academics with their sporting desires and continue to grow their way in their own chosen sport after they are admitted here and while they study engineering. We believe this will be the first IITian Olympian that India would have ever produced. If our vision, if our dream comes true, we would have created a revolution in this country. That somebody can be an IITian and an Olympian at the same time. I'm sure many of you at least partially watched the Paris Olympics that happened a few months ago. There were professional doctors who ran the marathon. There were exceptionally gifted neuroscientists who were participating in the Olympics. Why is it that India can't be in that league? We have exceptionally bright minds. We just need to learn how to balance playing and studying. Play when you want to play. Study when you want to study. Remember, I didn't say study when you need to study. Play when you want to play, study when you want to study. But there's 24 hours in the day, 24 long hours in the day. If you use as much of the 24 hours as possible, this balance is actually a very easy thing to do. It's not that difficult. I think with this culture quota in the offing in the July 25 admission cycle and the sports excellence admission that we launched in July 24, IIT Madras has raised the bar on what we think is excellence in students. Excellence in math, physics and chemistry, we have said very clearly, is only one form of excellence. There are multiple forms of excellence, and we want every form of excellence to have a presence here at IIT Madras. And in due course of time, we believe our student population will be one of the most well-rounded student population in the entire country. The world will be looking to IIT Madras to say, I want to be there as well. So you all should continue playing, practice your sport, stay fit. Stay fit. Ultimately, that's one of the main reasons we want our young men and women to be playing. Stay fit, stay healthy. If you talk to anyone like Vishwanathan Anand or a Gukesh, who are chess world champions, you should ask them what is their physical exercise routine. They have as demanding a physical exercise routine as their mental exercise routine. They have to stay sharp physically, without which they really can't be sharp mentally. So there is no room in India of tomorrow for a person who is not able to balance these. The last point I want to make is, as Saumil introduced me, I used to be the Dean for Alumni and Corporate Relations at IIT Madras until recently. From this vantage point, I have seen over 60,000 alumni who have studied here at IIT Madras and are now somewhere in the world, in 80 countries of the world actually, doing well for themselves, their families, their communities, and growing professionally. If you ask what is common between all of them, they are all able to balance multiple things. If I find one trait that cuts across multiple successful individuals I have seen, it is that they are able to find that balance among many things. There's this man named Kannan Iyer that I met. He is a graduate of IIT Madras from the class of 1981. This man is a movie director in Bollywood today. He's produced some really top hit movies. And if you ask him, how does he do his thing? He balances between reading and his work directing movies. He has to read a lot to find new ideas all the time. And so every profession in the world of tomorrow requires you to know this balance. And this is a great time as young children in middle school. You are in the perfect time to learn how to balance without a parent telling you. Now this last part is for you. Can you balance without your parent telling you? You should know when to stop playing. You should know when to stop studying also. without anybody telling you, you should know when to stop watching the mobile, you should know when to stop watching the TV. Everything in moderation is a good idea, but you can tell yourself you have grown up if without anybody reminding you, if you are left alone at home, if you are able to balance 3-4 things, you watched a little bit of TV, you played a game on the mobile phone, you went out, ran a little bit, you came back, studied, you ate healthy, you slept well, without anybody telling you you need to do this. That is when you have grown up from being a child to becoming an adult. I'll tell you, in today's world, there are many, many adult-looking children also. Okay? We need to be aware of that. Don't become an adult-looking child. Grow up to really become an adult where you are able to find this balance by yourself. I want to thank Ramesh, who is the CEO of this Center of Excellence on Sports Science and Analytics. He is the brainchild and the main driver behind bringing Sports Village and IIT Madras together into this wonderful event, and we are all able to stand here, sit here, and share some thoughts with each other. Thank you, Ramesh. Thank you, Shomil. Thank you to the Sports Village team for pulling this event together. Have fun, play hard, study well, be healthy. Thank you.
Request Somil to felicitate Dr. Mahesh, please. Well, thank you, Dr. Mahesh, for a wonderful opening to the session and touching the right notes, which is health, fitness, and the balance. And more powers to you and the team, IIT Madras, for the revolution that you're trying to bring into the pinnacle of education system, and also for the CESA work that's happening, which is highly relevant for the whole value chain of sports, as we will discuss some of those principles today. Moving to our first conversation or panel today, which is centered on Get Kids to Play. The book and the ideas the book has come to represent. And we have carefully selected panelists for that. And to moderate and anchor this panel, I would like to invite Samil Majmudar and Vijay Krishnamurthy, the co-authors for the book. And please welcome on the stage. I would also request Somil and Vijay to introduce the panelists for this session and take it forward from there.
Good morning, everyone. You know, I truly envy the kids here. I wish as a kid I had come into an IIT to discuss about sports. With my engineering background, it was all about that. So thanks, everyone. I have a tiny story to tell before I call on the panelists. This is my second visit to IIT Madras. The previous one was in 1994, so it's about 30 years ago. And again, it was for a reason of sport. It wasn't for engineering or science or technology. Coming from Bangalore, I came from another college which was very heavy in sport. And as Dr. Mahesh was talking, he was reminding me of my previous principal, M.R. Hulla. And we had players like Anil Kumble and all that from our college. And there was a sub-junior nationals basketball held, which was very, very prestigious in IIT Madras. And when the two colleges competed, it really looked like a set of engineers actually competing so hard. So to his point that both sport and academics can happen, it's truly possible. And hopefully we can talk about it more today on today's panel thing. And, you know, I invite Dr. M. Sundar, Vice Chancellor, Tamil Nadu Physical Education and Sports University, onto the stage. Is he there?
No, he's going to later.
Okay. Rajendra Kamath, founder of Final Third. He's a sports parent and he also runs his firm in giving sports scholarships. So, welcome to have you, Rajendra. Kirtana Swaminathan, sports psychologist, co-founder and president of INSPA, which is Indian Sports Psychology Association. So, she'll give us stuff from the child development, what parents need to know and things like that. Ayon Sengupta, editor of Sports Star, the magazine we all grew up with. Thank you, Ayon. And of course...
Dr. Bhavani Shankar, Director Strategy Innovation at the Heartfulness Learning Center, school leader for 30 plus years and a big supporter of the whole ladies sports program.
And of course, my co-author Somal, who needs no introduction. Yeah, so we'll, to just get started, I want to quote something what Somil had mentioned in the book, and we'll just open it up to the panel. He used to say, and which actually got written in the book, he used to say, sport is everybody's baby, so has it become nobody's baby, right? So everybody needs to take part and make it happen, but is it happening or not? Keeping that in mind, I want to open it up with, I'll start with Kirtana. What are the challenges that you see in, in child development space? So parents are here, teachers, kids. Of course, we're talking about towards competition or just having fun. Any insights, challenges in the first round that you see from what you see when you're working with parents and teachers?
Good morning, and first of all, thank you so much for having this summit. Audible, right? Yes. Oh, perfect. So, with regard to children these days, there's a lot of exposure right now. Whatever exposure we would have had when we grew up, I think they have it when they're 10 or 11 or even 12, 13, right? So a lot of social media, lot of exposure from the media as well, a lot of exposure from friends as well. And sport has taken up a big chunk of their time as well because it's trending, right? Honestly, whether it's beneficial or not, I don't know, but in India, when someone is doing really well in something, everyone else try to catch on very quickly, right? And sport over the last few years has become the biggest thing that parents want for their children. And I'm going to say majority of the parents want the children to get into Olympics. And we all know that probably a small percentage of them can actually get into Olympics, right? Because we don't yet have the gene pool. I think that is the most important part, wherein we don't have a sporting culture just yet. And one thing that I've noticed as a challenge with regard to developmental, especially with regard to child development, is that first, at 10, 11, parents want these children to win, right? And I think that is highly pressurizing because, naturally by their own skills, they're winning, then that's great. That's great, that's not an issue. But then if there's a lot of pressure to win, then the sporting journey for the child is not sustainable. And that I think is the biggest challenge right now that I'm seeing.
Quick one on that. But there's icon and having a role modeling effect is also there in sport.
Yes.
But at the same time, how do you steer them away from saying, don't think about that, just continue playing? And how do you keep them in the game for long term, let's say? Like, for example, I also picked up a sports star, you're following people. But then if, let's say I'm, idolized watching Kapil Dev, right? And now somebody says, don't get so serious, start studying, then it's also confusing for the child, right?
That's true. So I think it's more about the narrative that we use, right? It's not necessarily the role models. I think it's very, very important to have role models. It's very, very important to make sure that kids do have those role models to look up to. Especially because when we think it's impossible, they actually do it. So it's very important. But the narrative around it, not every child can become a PV Sindhu. Not every child can become an MSD. right? But to push them into their own authentic self, I think we were having this conversation earlier, to empower the child to become their own best version of themselves. And it's a journey, isn't it? So instead of trying to be someone else, so we can even change the narrative and say, see, these role models are there because they became their own best version of themselves. They didn't really try to, I don't want to use the word copy because that's not right. But they didn't really get into someone else's journey and try to, apply that to themselves. They simply just became better themselves. So, yeah.
Somebody want to add anything to this? Or yeah.
No, I want to jump from her to Ayon. I think
Yes, I
think that's a good segue to what Sports Star does, and how do you see encouraging this whole culture of play versus, I won't say versus, but celebrating stars, and from a media perspective, how can we help kids get this balance of narrative, as she calls it?
Yeah, I think the concept of academics and sports doesn't go hand in hand, is only applicable in India. If you look somewhere in the West, where both are actually complementing each other. If you look at Western world, and when I'm talking about Western world, I'm also talking about countries like South Korea and Japan, which have a sporting culture, where kids are not, they're not being asked to choose between sports and academics. I think that's very important in India. And I think the other thing which we really falter in India is that at a very young age, we ask kids to pick something, to specialize. We ask them to say that, okay, you want to be a runner or you want to be a cricketer and you only focus on that. Till a certain age, till 15, 16, you should play all sport. You should concentrate on your academics. I mean, even when you talk about academics, at the 6th standard, you are seeing kids studying for JEE entrance exams. I mean, that's not what you want kids to do. You should allow them to have fun.
And just to dig deeper, and from a Sports Star perspective, how do you see, let's call it as a representative of media, if I may,
Yeah.
how does media look at this? How can media support this narrative?
I think as a media organization, it's also very important for us to focus on grassroots and school sports. I mean, unfortunately, if you look at in India, that doesn't happen much. If you look at US, the collegiate sports system is actually very, very popular. There's a lot of media space being devoted to that. A lot of community newspapers actually talk a lot about school sports, but unfortunately in this country that doesn't happen here. We are always focused on the IPL auction. We are focused on who wins an Olympic medal, but not a kid under 13 level who's going and scoring a century. And it's very important for a child or for his or her parent to see that name at an under 11, under 13 level if your name comes out on the paper. I think that's where we have, at the Hindu, we have made a conscious decision that we would want to focus on local age group sport. We have always done that. I mean, for example, if you talk about Leander Pace, his first report actually which came out in the Hindu was when he won the Bertram tournament in Chennai at Loyola when he was 14 years old.
Nice.
And the cutout, I mean, it's a lovely picture of a 14-year-old Leander, still spunky, playing a forehand, his chain, and he still carries that particular cutout in his wallet.
Nice.
I think I want to show a few the Hindu pages from November 26th. And as you know, November 26th, which was yesterday, was a big day as far as sports is concerned in Indian newspapers, because obviously you had the big mega IPL auction, then you had India beating Australia in Perth. But we still found space, if you can see here, if you can show them, right at the bottom, for local sport. This is our Chennai edition. You can see this is an under 13 tournament. This is again a young tournament. This I think is from Madurai, same again. So this is what unfortunately is not happening with Indian newspapers. I hope that more and more Indian newspapers would do that and focus on local age group sport.
Thank you. Vijay, back to you.
Ayon, I had a quick follow-up, a quick one before we move ahead. You know, this narrative of someone even, I'm just thinking of yesterday, since you mentioned IPL, there's a 13-year-old kid now making into an unheard of, right? How do we, the education part of that kid, because he's still a teenager, right? is that something that we should tell more stories of that, and then people get to know the kid more, not just playing?
Absolutely. I think the pressure here, the biggest problem in Indian sport is that a lot of parents see it as a means of getting a job or finding a career in that. That should never be the case. You should play sport just to have fun. I mean, what Dr. Mahesh said, I mean, if you look at European countries, I mean, there are great athletes who are also great at academics. I mean, if you look at Paul Gasol, the NBA legend, I mean, he is a doctor in medicine. Or Deng Yaping, who's the fourth-time Olympic champion from China. He is a PhD from Cambridge. So very important to tell your children that sports is not for a career. I mean, if you excel in it, if you do well, and I mean, what he said that it's great for these kids to be in IIT Madras, but being an international athlete to win an Olympic medal is even tougher than getting into an IIT Madras.
Well said.
Thank you. Thank you, Ed. I'll move to Bhavani Shankar, sir. And from a school perspective, we've heard parents what they want, their aspirations, kids. But school is the place where everything lands, I'm thinking. From sport to art to acads to everything. How do you, like, it's like a bus which is overcrowded with so many subjects. What are your thoughts?
Lovely. First, let me open this particular question to the audience here. So I would like, show of hands, how many school leaders and teachers are here? Teachers and school leaders, please. Teachers and school leaders. So I'm going to ask, sitting right at the front. So we do have these parent-teacher meetings periodically, right? And our own experience is that group of belligerent parents who come and tell, so the child has been in your school for like 6 years, 7 years, so what have you done with respect to the child's education? And then you go ahead and say, don't worry, sir, we will take care of them. Have you said that or not? Yes, so other teachers, have you said that? Arvind, have you said that? Don't worry, sir, we'll take care of them. So who said, don't worry, sir, we'll take care of them? Bala. So you experienced it. So a lot of us say that, right? That's the biggest mistake. So the minute you say that, the parents transfer their responsibilities onto the school. Have you seen that happening? Now, so this is the narrative I want to say. So it clearly says that it's not just the school who raises the kid, but then the entire community takes the entire community to raise the kid. And the challenges, I would say, and the mistakes that we make are that the stakeholder engagement. So we really discount the parents as very important stakeholders in the engagement, and this is from my own mistakes and my own personal mistakes. I feel that that needs to change first. The minute parents become a part of this engagement, you would see the first change happening. Next, I would pause. There were two narratives today, beautiful narratives. One narrative Dr. Mahesh placed, very powerful narrative, and another narrative that you saw as a visual. So what appeals to the mind of the viewer is what the narrative seeks to achieve. And in the story that was given by Dr. Mahesh and the story that was placed by Somal it talked about competition, it talked about making yourself visible through achievement. It talked about IIT opening up the possibility of 32 scholarships for meritorious sporting candidates, but it never ever talked about, Dr. Mahesh did bring it back and said that towards the end, it's just not about achievement, it's about the need to engage, the need to stay fit. So the narrative is significantly important because only certain narratives appeal to people's mind. If competition appeals to people's mind, you will have to use that as a bait to bring the children into the fold of play. If something else appeals, no, the question is what the how of making kids play lies in the wonder of the narrative that is going to be presented. Of course, role modeling is important, but the story that you tell to make them engage becomes so much more important. And this is what I feel that the school should do. So building narratives that will bring the kids to play first. And once they start playing, you can tell them other narratives, because see, even for parents, the aspirations shift. When the child is so young, they have a set of aspirations for the child. But then we know, when Dr. Mahesh was telling, so there were about 50,000 kids who came and graduated through the mains. But then the back-end narrative is that almost 25 lakh students take the IIT JEEs. And this equation doesn't actually fit anywhere, because only a small portion of them come into IITs. But if we realize that the aspiration to come into IIT makes them play, makes them engage, but then not getting into IIT is not the end of the world for them. Yeah. You build another alternate narrative as they grow up, that narrative would stick. And the only way I would say that I'm able to face disappointments and failures in life, so with as much ease as successes, is because I learned losing through playing. Absolutely. And this is something that the schools can focus on.
Absolutely. I think, having no fear of failure. Just a quick follow-up on that though. From a practical perspective, I'm just thinking as a kid now, how many times did I see in a parent-teacher meeting, my PE teacher? I always saw my English, history, math, science, everyone giving, telling what to do, what not to do. How can we make that happen, or do you feel, where are we in that?
Okay, the first question that I would ask that, so in parent-teachers meeting, do you actually put the kids also around? So, are the kids eliminated from this meeting? That's the first question. Now, see, the PTM is structured in such a way, so in several instances, it does not have the kids as a part of the conversation. So that needs to change, number one. And within the operations, let us say that if I need a feedback which needs to be significantly reflective to the purpose that I am engaging with the children, the only way it can happen is to also include in the conversation what the kids have to say. So they definitely enjoy play. So the PE teachers are pretty much a part of the PTM, but we are excluding the kids from these meetings. So it is, see, interesting. I would say it's a sorry state of affairs.
Okay. So, Rajendra Kamath, who's seen sport, acads, his own children, and also now trying to support scholarships for both. Tell us first what you went through. How did you manage to, get your kids to balance both, and your motivation for your own venture?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here. So I have a daughter and twin sons. So twin sons, they were interested in football right from their younger days. Yeah, they were interested in football right from their first or second grade. And they've been playing for school. They got selected for Reliance Foundation Young Champs, which is a fully funded scholarship residential academy in Mumbai. So they went there from their 6th or 7th grade, and from 7 to 12 they were there. And Reliance Foundation, and this is not a selling of Reliance Foundation, but they're doing a fantastic job in giving that platform to the kids in India, across India. So they select about 8 to 10 kids from about 1 lakh of them across India. They bring them out to the residential campus in Mumbai. Their studies and their physical, football, psychological, nutritional, you look at all aspects 24/7. My boys graduated last year. They are now in US on 100% football scholarship, playing for the college. Majority of their teammates in Reliance Foundation are now in ISL clubs. Mumbai Football Club, Goa, Jamshedpur. You look at all these football clubs, they have picked these kids. So, that has been the end point. That is what they were all striving to do. That is what their passion was. Coming to the challenges, obviously, as a parent, you always feel that, football is good, but, will the kid make it? A very small percentage actually makes the cut. Secondly, what happens to the academics? Will they be able to cope up? Will they give up? Will they be too focused on football and, just lose out on academics? So I think as a parent, you have to be glued into the process, which we did. I was into sports. I gave it up at some point in time. But I wanted to make sure that the same thing does not happen to the kids. And you have to be glued into the whole process, right from their academics. The schools and the teachers are supportive. They will make sure that the extra classes are given, but the bottom line is still with the family, right? So you want to make sure that the kids are not falling behind in academics. How do we create a parallel system where if the kid is missing a class, you talk to somebody, some of their friends to make sure the notes are, they get the notes. If the kid is good, the next step is always, what do I do next for my kid? How do I make sure that, that they get better in what they're doing? So my boys, when they were playing football, they had a good coach. We were thinking, okay, school provides all the championships. They go to tournaments. What do I do next? How do I help them? So we went across, we spoke to BFC, we went for the trials. And they got selected at the age of 10, they got selected for, the under 11, under 12 BFC. I think as a parent, what we're doing now is, as they call it these days, you're just being a parent servant to them, right? So you're making sure that all the obstacles, all the opportunities which are out there, you are going after them, making sure that the kid is able to get to those, and then supporting them logistically. That's about it. I think the kids are pretty smart these days. They make sure that their homework is done, because they know that the homework is not done, they're going to lose out. Because at one point in time, the parent is going to step in and say, you need to focus here as well. So I think the kid is smart enough. I think as a parent, it is a very easy job to provide the logistic support and everything else, what you can, to make sure that the kid is on the right track. So going through this journey, when my kids graduated after their 12th, and I wanted to make sure that, in fact, in their 9th and 10th, I even looked at Europe to make sure they get to the next level. Given that they were doing so well in Reliance, we were looking at what next. So I was talking to academies in Europe, but somewhere or the other I found that they're so focused on football, it is a either or. And US I found was the best combination of academics and sports, and that's how we gravitated towards US. Went through the entire journey from the 9th to 12th, and they are now in US. But some of the data points, US colleges spend about 5 billion USD in sports scholarship. There are about 8 lakh kids across the globe, and US, as we know, has been pretty good in sports. So right from the Olympics, if you can look at all the sports they are involved in, they're doing pretty well. So I think the idea was to give them the best of both worlds on academics and sports. Now, out of the 8 lakh kids, who get about $5 billion in sports scholarship just to get, go and play and, do what they love, there are just about 300 or 350 kids from India who are in US currently. My idea to start this company was also to make sure that, given that there are a lot of parents who want their kids to continue playing, but they give up at some point in time due to challenges, due to the end state, what the parents is thinking about. All I can say is there are opportunities. All we need to do is make sure that the kid does not lose out in the process. The kids are doing their best to manage both academics and sports. And for the rest, I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajendra. I think we'll do another quick round of what solutions from the panel before we open it up for questions. I'm even thinking, Somil, what are your thoughts? We'll start from the other way around. You've been running this firm for more than 2 decades. Time is a crunch. ACADs come in the way. Then the latest thing is smartphones in the hands of everyone. What should we do to get kids to play? Other than us writing the book.
I didn't expect that as a question, but I think having tried different models, seems like schools are the problem is kind of landing at the schools, because safe space, 35, 40 other kids of the same broadly aged, height, weight, broadly socioeconomic context, comfort of parents interacting, security, some space, some time. School seems to be the solution. Now, of course, schools are waiting to solve the sports problem. They have their own set of challenges, and therefore parents. I think the school-parent context somewhere has to get solved, and I think maybe that's what Dr. Bhavani was referring to. And that solution, and therefore our parents, how do we get parents to ask for it more, to support the school? I have not met in the last 20 years any school leader who says we don't want sports to be part of education. Neither have I met any parent who says I don't want my child to play. So if everybody is in for it, then why is it not happening? Something else is taking over in terms of priorities and in terms of attention and resources.
At least for me, you're talking about schools to college, and Dr. Mahesh was talking. So maybe if my parents had attended this several decades ago, then they can actually think of that bridge happening.
But I think on Dr. Mahesh's speech, I want to add to your point of narrative, Dr. Bhavani Shankar. It's a personal anecdote as I was telling her. I got into IIT Bombay, the better one than Madras.
although he disagrees, I can see.
Oh, hello. Dr. Padma's son is from IIT Madras. So I got selected for a badminton team in Maharashtra many years ago. I thought I was the cool dude getting into IIT Bombay and having played badminton at a decent level. Cool dude. And I could not get into the IIT Bombay badminton team. So there were at least 8 people better than me in badminton. What was worse was they were better than me in JEE rank also. I mean, not only were they better than me in badminton. So to point of narrative, I think people don't know that people are able to balance. I think we're not celebrating those people who are balancing sports and academics. We are either only celebrating sports stars or academic stars, right? And so a lot of the kids who are here are essentially our attempt to say, hey, there are kids who are doing sports and doing academics. Let's celebrate those kids, and parents are supporting that balance. And maybe that's one important angle there.
Yeah, same. I only might have heard of Chetan Babur, the table tennis champion. He was my college senior. It was the same story like Samuel was saying. He couldn't get into the college university team. We had to wait for him to go on this. If he goes away for an overseas tournament is when, so that competitive it was. But over to you, Ayon, and sorry.
Yeah, so last year we had one girl from Pune, 100 meters, 400 meters national champion. I think she's second in one of them. And she got into Princeton this year after her 12th grade. So she has been obviously balancing academics and sports. There are a lot of kids like this.
Actually, on that, I have a question for you. I mean, in the work that you're doing now, Raja, you did it because I know your context, you are personally passionate, but not all parents are necessarily sold onto this notion of sports as a career. So how are you, what are the questions?
Yeah, so I think these are 2 cities, and maybe, it is just starting. I've started a year back, so it might just be the start of the whole journey. But these 2 cities, I see a lot more of the parents, going above and beyond. And I don't know if it is due to the background, or if they've been expats, or they've had exposure, living abroad. I don't know which of it fits, but could be a combination of that. But I see a lot of those parents nowadays talking about, I want my kid to do this. In fact,
are, I mean, we don't really give as much importance to a PE join the former India physio. He's from Australia. And if you really look at a sporting nation, I mean, while US has a collegiate system, it's also the capital of obesity in the world. So Australia is probably one country in South Africa which is truly a sporting nation because the average time spent on TV for a whole week in Australia is less than what an Indian family spends on a day. And Gloucester had a very important point. He said the best paid teachers in the Australian school system are the PE teachers because the students spend the most amount of time with the PE teachers. Yeah. So unless we are able to do that, if we put that sort of focus on PE teachers, it would be very difficult to improve things. And the other aspect is while we are talking about the largest amount of in terms of reaching out to students, it's the government school system. And if you look at it right now in Tamil Nadu, there was a recent order which was passed in July of this year. It said that for every 700 students at the secondary and the higher secondary level, there would be one PE teacher. Before that, it was one for every 300 students. Now it has been increased one for every 700 students. And in Tamil Nadu schools, at the primary level, there are no PE teachers in government schools. So if you don't address that at the government school level, you can't really make a difference.
Absolutely. I think teacher-student ratio as well as importance to the PE. Kirtana, your
So I'm going to
Research Center. That's an interesting combination. Please, welcome. Thank you. May I invite Mrs. Pushpalata? She, of course, is the trustee of the Pushpalata School, Vidya Mandir School in Tirunelveli. Started the CBSE school as well as the IB school. MBA from PhD Institute of Management, Coimbatore. Please. And also runs a very interesting Mitra, a Center for Autism, which I just found out about, for autism children in Tirunelveli as well. And of course, Naveen, who runs Shraddha Academy. Thank you, Naveen, for being here. 3,000 kids across 3 campuses. Alumni of IIM Ahmedabad, College of Engineering Guindy, and also part of the Stanford University SEED program. Let me take my seat there. So, thank you first of all for being here. And since morning we've been talking about balancing sports and academics, and this session is kind of trying to dig deeper into that. Let me start with you. Your work seems to be interesting in terms of what you're doing here, as well as kids, hospital, sports science. How have you seen this whole notion of balance, sports and academics? How are students seeing it? How are parents seeing it? What have you seen?
Okay, so it's been mentioned in the previous panel as well. There's a heavy emphasis on sports activities in the US with the collegiate system. So my experience with students has been at the school level, basically 11 years through 18 years. And what I found was, a little bit of background. Okay, so I worked in neuroscience and biomechanics, which means I studied human movement and the brain, just on a gross level. The core thing that you will find in all these research is that one is always going to affect the other. They're not mutually independent at the biological level. So it's like a bicycle. You take a bicycle and you upgrade one component on it to a racing level, does not make the entire bicycle really fast. It'll just improve its performance by a little bit. To make an actual competitive bicycle, you have to have all the components be at the highest level of performance. So striking that balance requires investment from everyone, parents, teachers, and at the end of the day, it is the students, it is the child who is should be the center of attention, right? And the role of the parents and teachers is to support them to move forward. In every way, we are all just supporting pillars, propping up the child.
If I may interrupt you, I think people agree that we should support, but it's not happening. Yes. So something is going wrong in this process. There's nobody in this room who says we'll not support. But there are challenges that they are facing, including the school leaders here, right? And so what's your view on that? What's going on? And is there some research that can help maybe convince more people? Is there some stuff that we can do?
So at the end of the day, everything has to be incentivized one way.
Incentivized, okay.
So right now, if I ask how many people here think technology is cool?
Technology is cool.
How many kids think science is cool? How many of you think everything other than science and technology is cool? How many of you think sports and technology are mutually exclusive? They're two different things. See, they're not at the end of the day. Everything you do in sports can be a part of technology, right? They can drive research problem statements. They can encourage students to look at it from different perspectives.
So you're saying parents should see sports as a larger construct
It's
than
an
just,
opportunity.
It's an opportunity.
To explore more as opposed to constraining to existing fields, which is where a lot of success has been driven in the Western world. You have excellent athletes who are PhD scholars, right? Because they actually find their own problem statements in their sport and then pursue that as a research statement, publish papers in it. Which is fantastic because who best to tell you about your own sport than yourself?
It's interesting. I'll come back to you on your research on neuroscience and mind, but I want to go to Pushpalata ma'am. This whole notion of parents and how parents should. I am sure as a school leader also you have a lot of view of what parents should do versus what they actually do. How do you, first of all, before I come to what you do as a school leader, how do you see parents looking at this whole notion of balance of sports and academics?
Yeah, as in like through the conversation, we have seen that everybody understands the importance of sports. Similarly, parents also, first and foremost, they want their children to be healthy. But then the bottom line as to why we are not giving it is because we are not prioritizing it. Now, again, if we ask why are we not prioritizing it, it is because parents think that sports and academics cannot be balanced. See, if you see up to grade 8, parents are okay with 2 PT periods a day. They're okay with after school sports, we have morning sports, our cycle to school, everything, all the programs, there's a lot of buy-in. But from grade 9 onwards, because there's so much emphasis on academics, I was very happy to see that Dr. Mahesh said that the sports achievement has been given importance in the IITs. Because then again, the kind of money that parents have to spend for sports versus for a JE program, like for a training for a competitive exam versus training for sports. There's a huge disparity there, you know. So for a sports program, a parent may be willing to pay 1,500 rupees, but for an IIT or a NEET coaching, they're willing to pay 10,000 to 15. So it is, and so what my take as an educator is, whether it is, we need not focus exactly on competitive sports. We have to get the idea across to parents, which in the past 20 years, to a fair extent, we've been able to get across to our parents, is that it is about staying healthy in the body and mind for the child. And it is important that the children carry this lesson with them, that how do they take care of their body, their knowledge, their wisdom about how the nutrition, how to, be a healthy person through their life, doing some form of exercise, maybe 4 to 5 days in a week for about 30 minutes. So if we are able to impart that to a child when they leave school at age 16, then I think our job is done as an educator. I'm not talking about sporting excellence, achievements, Olympics. I'm not talking about all that. That's another aspect altogether.
Interesting, thank you. Naveen, if I come to you, you also have made investment from the sports infra perspective. You clearly give it importance. How are you seeing this whole parent involvement in this?
So I think we all agree, like you said, that sports is important, but when it comes to actually executing it, we face a lot of challenges. From a parent's perspective, I think there are two major stakeholders here. I'm leaving not touching the child at the moment, but the parents and the school leaders. I think first the teachers and the leaders need to be convinced that sports is not to become a superstar. Sports is part of your daily life. It's essential for you to have a healthy life. That we all inherently know it, but when it comes to actually executing it in a daily life, we somehow put it in the backbench. It's not a priority for us. Same thing with the parents. All parents will agree sports is important, but given a choice between sports and having an extra period of, let's say, school, they just prefer school because they think that's more important, not realizing that not having that sports is actually impacting what the child is doing in school. In our school itself, though, from the top, we give a lot of pressure, motivation, positive motivation to our teachers and our leaders to increase the number of PT periods in a week. We've still managed to hit only 4 periods per week up to grade 5, though our stated goal is to hit 4 periods all the way to grade 12.
Let me understand this. You as a trustee...
I am not able to do it.
You as a trustee want more PE periods per week?
Yes.
And you are not able to do it?
I am not able to do it because there's so much pushback from my teachers, pushback from parents. Teachers are saying, I don't have time to complete my syllabus. It's not just about academics. As a school, we do a lot of co-curricular activities, we have a lot of clubs, we do a lot of things. Teachers are saying, where is time? How do I finish my physics portions? And at some point, there's only so much you can fight with them. Then say, small win, let's do something this year, next year we'll go up. So there's a lot of learning that needs to happen within the school system as well, I think. It's not just the parents, even the teachers and the leaders in the school need to understand why it's important.
I mean, this is interesting that you as the director of the school want to do it, you ma'am also want to do it, but clearly there's something going wrong, right? There's some perception of risk, if I may use that word, that there's a risk that I am not, as a parent, maybe I'm not doing the best for my child if I promote sports. What's going on there? There's something happening there. Is it about other curriculum that needs to be reduced then?
Right. So when you say risk comes in when you're trying to look at sports as a means to an end. I think we need to stop looking at it like that. It's not. I'm not going to be a superstar. I don't want to be a superstar in sports. I want sports to be part of my life. That philosophy, that ethic has not gone into. We all know it, but I don't think it's really ingrained in what it means in daily life for us. I have 2 kids. Both are active tennis players, and while I encourage them to go professionally as much as they want, but at some point they said, "No, pa, enough. I want to." Continue my studies now. So I said, cool. So there's also a factor of economics here. There's a factor of how much the parent can afford to do on sports versus academics. So there's always priority that given to academics versus sports. A bunch of factors that run in a parent's mind when he decides to do this.
Interesting. Ma'am, if I can come to you, I want to just for a minute put the spotlight on a child. What if I am a child who wants to play more, and all these factors are now known? Parents have their concerns, their academic pressure, their knowledge, all that. As a child, what can I do? How can I make more play happen for myself?
See, as I said, play doesn't necessarily, exercise, when you mean play, if it's a team sports, of course they need others. But exercise doesn't necessarily need to be, within the school hours. If a child wants to exercise or wants to, stay healthy, as I said, we give option, they can cycle to school, or they can just, we have leaderboards in Sports Village where children can do a set of exercises in the morning, or in the evening, or, whatever time they choose. So if a child puts its mind, to play, and often we hear parents, see, these days parents do listen to their children. I feel, this generation.
I didn't have a choice, I had to listen to my child.
In the sense, if a child really says, I want to play, or I want to pursue sports, or I want to pursue drama, most parents, I know that there is common perception sometimes is not reality. Because often you ask parents, why is your child not doing something? They say, na sona cake ma tekra. In Tamil it means I don't know, they don't listen to me. That's a common thing parents are saying. So why do you think that when they're not listening to so many other things that the parents are saying, why would they listen to the parent saying don't play, which a parent it's not going to say. It doesn't somehow seem to match in my mind. So I feel if a child wants to play, can play.
But wants to play in the context of balancing sports and academics. How can I, if the construct is that either my class teacher or my parent is worried about my scores going down, but I want more PE classes.
It's not just sports and academics today. A child has a plethora of options, and the child is being forced in all directions, so it's very, very tough for the child. Gadgets is just one of the things, but even within the school, it's not just academics today. Almost all schools teach drama, theatre, dance, music, so there's so many ways that the child is spending time. So yes, sports is important, but child has access to a lot of other things that consume his time. So that's a factor we need to keep in mind as well.
That's interesting. I want to come back to, you mentioned some research around neuroscience and movement. And is that well known? Is there a need to publish more of that stuff for people to be convinced, or in your view, are people convinced about this already?
No. There's definitely, in fact, even within the field, people are not convinced how much of an impact it can have over a short period or a long period. What is the retention of particular strategies? So if I teach a person to move in a particular way, is that actually retained by this student, by this athlete, or once they leave my academy, right? I think the primary focus with interdisciplinary research can be bringing, medical sides and the engineering sides and sports personnels together, and then performing research activities together so that the dissemination can happen in all fields as opposed to individual silos.
But these cross-functional disciplines also have this problem of it becomes nobody's baby, right? It's like no particular stream owns it then.
I don't see a problem with that.
You don't see that?
Yeah, ancient child rearing was one village used to raise one child.
Takes a village,
so I don't see a problem with that. It's only recently we have started thinking of our own domains, holding on to it. I think if we have to make progress as a community, as a society, then we have to.
I guess IIT Madras is a great place for that kind of work.
That's what everyone here stands for.
Wonderful. Let me, towards the closure of this session, I want to come to both of you as, in your role as school leaders. We focused on parents, focused on kids. But as school leaders, there are multiple other things going on, regulatory stuff going on, a bunch of other challenges going on. As school leaders, do you have a wish list that, hey, I want to get kids to play if this happened? If this happened, more kids would play. Do you have a wish list?
I'll go first, yeah, sorry. So I think the first thing is spaces to play.
Places to play.
Spaces, yeah, places,
yes,
spaces. So that's always a constraint in city schools. Maybe little on the outskirts, it's not a problem. But we have a limited space in one of our schools, and I'm pushing my PE team to have an athletics team for my middle school. We don't have space. So if there was some way in which we could collaborate with the government on having, using the public common spaces during daytime and we maintain it for them,
sure.
That'd be fantastic for us.
Interesting. You don't have a problem of space in your...
Sorry?
You don't have a space problem in...
Yeah, we don't have, we have a huge campus, we have a 10-acre campus, so we have... as Mr. Sengupta mentioned Japan in his talk, like in Japan there's this culture and community of staying healthy for life. So if there's a wish list for me, it would more be like as a culturally, we need to become more inclined towards playing, towards sports, towards being healthy. Because I feel that's kind of somewhere along the line. We have, see, as someone mentioned, there are no PE teachers in the primary schools and government schools in Tamil Nadu. I think again it was Sir who mentioned it. So that is a very sad state, And then if we were to have 5 PT periods per class, we have to have 1 PT teacher for every 240 children, as per the CBSE recommend. And CBSE recommends PT periods all 5 days a week on paper. But then we need 240 for every 240 children, because they say 40 children per class, but of course schools like us, we have only 30, 32. We need to have that. So that means for, you have to have a lot of PE teachers. Again, in Japan, in the elementary schools, it's the same teacher who handles math, who handles physical education. They don't have a separate PE teacher in all the elementary schools in Japan. And the number of periods for physical education, moral education, math, science is equal. Whereas, it's recommended that we have PT periods. But for instance, if you take class 11 and 12, there are about, let's say we work 6 days a week, 8 periods per day. So that's 40 periods. In that, 7 periods is required for physics, chemistry, maths, and computer science or English. So what's left? And as Sir was saying, we need to have, library hour, we of course, in our school, we have 2 periods per week in the higher secondary as well, which again, sometimes children come and request, next period we have tests, can we study? Because they need to perform well in their JEE mains, which was there last week, or their upcoming NEET exam. So as an educator, my wish list is that, the social media should project being healthy. India, the obesity is on the rise. We have 3% of obese kids now in schools. In our school, we did a recent study, of course, with the help of Sports Village, where we are having, in the higher classes, from 9, in the lower classes, it's only 3%, it's only 2%, but from 9 to 12, it's almost 4 to 5%. So obesity is on the rise. So social media, educators, all the policy makers, people from IIT, everybody has to come together, and there has to be a cultural change. Unless and until that happens, these kind of discussion will happen for years, and so that's my wish list.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hopefully with each discussion we'll make some progress.
Yeah.
Any closing thoughts from you?
I think we need to quantify efficacy of all of our activities.
Quantify the efficacy?
Efficacy. Adding more curriculum or adding more periods itself, is it actually translating into an outcome that we desire? Classrooms are mostly now used for information transfer, and we live in the information age. So I don't know if that is the best use of a classroom to begin with.
So kids should study at home and they can play the whole day in school.
Sounds good to me.
That sounds like a plan, right?
Not running a school.
You're running.
No, I mean, you have to be able to look at it objectively and say, yes, these metrics are showing efficacy, these metrics are showing that, our current methods are obsolete or they're not relevant in the current context, so let's modify it. Why not combine sports and classroom studying into a single session of some sort. Right?
Yeah, I think there have been attempts on that. I think there have been attempts on teaching science through sports, and I know
Right,
I've
but
been
scaling
involved
up is one
yeah,
of the
see, I
biggest
can see her doing,
challenges.
no, it doesn't really work.
It works. I mean, certain,
Works on paper.
for certain topics, we do this cross-curricular learning.
Yeah, I think from a rigor that is expected of our academic systems, these cross-curricular pieces tend to break.
Can I just add
Yeah,
one?
please.
See, one another thing is when you're asking a parent why they send a child to school, they think it's to study. They don't say it's to play. You know, and so that kind of a mindset is that we are here to teach them the math and the science and all that. Okay, physical education is also there as part of the curriculum. But when a parent decides what kind of a school to send, sometimes having a very good sports program itself can be, a kind of a negative thing still in our society.
Really?
Because they feel they focus, some certain schools only focus. Of course, we have managed to balance it. So I think school leaders can successfully manage sports and academics if they put their mind to it. We can definitely plan and do a good job of it. And most importantly, every child, we say education is a fundamental right, but I think imparting fitness, like being fit, is also a fundamental right of a child. So that has to go into the mind of every parent, that children have to be fit and healthy and have enough knowledge to sustain for the rest of their life.
Wonderful. On those notes, you have some closing comments?
Just one last thing. It also has to be intrinsic motivation for the child as opposed to extrinsic factors motivating them to do physical activities or play. So inculcating this from a very young age and integrating it not being that only if you finish this will you get the carrot, something like that. It has to come intrinsically. Only then will these practices sustain over a longer period. Otherwise, it will always be external interventions trying to hold a system together.
Oh, that's interesting. Any last thoughts, Naveen?
So another factor that I think we should all keep in mind is also the type of school and
over and take it from you.
Thank you, Parminder. So in the interest of time, what we have done is, due to the orange alert as well, we have divided the award segment into two segments. So first we'll do the segment now and one after the summit. So what are these awards? As part of our endeavor with Get Kids to Play Summit across the cities of India, we are recognizing some playmakers and achievers. What do we mean by playmakers and achievers? Playmakers are institutions, brands, corporates, funders, schools, etc., who are enabling sports, who are enabling play in their own ecosystem. Achievers are these young champs who have excelled in sports but have also balanced their academics as in their pursuit of excellence in sports. So to start off with, I invite Arif Hassan, Operations Head for Sports Village Foundation, to start off with the CSR awards, and then we move on to the school awards. Over to you, Arif.
Hi, good morning, everybody. So at Sports Village Foundation, we've been very fortunate to have received continuous support from a lot of corporates and CSR donors in our endeavor to get sports accessible to each and every child in the country. So today we just wanted to take this opportunity to recognize a couple of these corporates with the Sports for Change Playmaker Award for taking the bold step of including sports as a part of their CSR initiatives, and in the process helping thousands of children realize their sporting dreams. So the first award, just to give away the awards, let me please invite Parminder and Saumil on stage, please. Also, I would like to invite Mr. Ramesh, CEO of CESA, to be on the stage for the awards, please. So the first, the Sports for Change Playmaker Award goes to Latent View Analytics. Would like to invite Purnima and Merlin on stage to collect the award, please. So Latent View Analytics has launched a unique grassroots football talent development program called Chennai Kalpand League, which aims to identify grassroots talent in football and support them to progress as elite athletes. The program, currently in its 4th season, is working with 450 children, 270 boys and 180 girls across 18 government schools. The program also provides a pathway for talented athletes to get trained under High Performance Academy and get opportunities to get scouted by government and private funded pathways. Would like to present the next Sports for Change Playmaker Award to Sagility India, and to collect the award, may I please request Victor and Aksa on stage. Sagility India, in partnership with Sports Village Foundation, is implementing a structured sports program across 5 government schools, covering 1,400 children in Chennai. The program aims to improve health and fitness, educational outcomes, and social emotional learning skills through sports. The program, which is currently in its 2nd year, also supports 80 talented athletes through a structured sports excellence program in Kho-Kho and Kabaddi. So congrats to the award winners, and I'd like to hand over the mic back to Nishant. Thanks.
We're going to give some awards, EduSport Achiever Awards to students, but for that I'm going to request somebody who's been a supporter of Sports Village EduSports for many years. Padma ma'am, auntie, can you please come on stage to give the awards to the kids? Padma Srinath, she's a leading educationist in Chennai. Also, her son is from IIT Madras. IIT Madras 93 batch? 92 batch. 90. Yeah, so, and she's a big supporter of our program, please.
To start off with, we have the GK World School Ranipet. I'll start off with the student's name. Kindly come on. Jionit, Madhyani, Aditya, Sundarsana, Sachit, Ananya. I request the school representative of the GK World School to kindly accompany the students. We have a sports village representing the school.
This is the one for school, big one.
Thank you, GK World School. Next up, we have PSBB School, Siruseri. Arav, Anjana, Sabarish, Sai, Kartikeya, Devika, Adarsh, Jinisha, Kirti Vasan, Shritu, Hitesh, and Pavana. May I also invite school representative from PSBB School, Siruseri, please. Do we have a school representative from PSBB School, Siruseri? I request Hema Chandran to take the award on their behalf. Thank you, PSBB School, Siruseri. Next up, we have BVM Global School, Bolineni Hillside. We have MP Madhav, Mitra, Achyut, Sarvita, Sai Sharvesh, and Hasmita. Any school representative from BVM Global School? I request Raghav to collect the award on their behalf. Thank you. Next up, we have SV High School, Vanagaram. Jaswant, Amira, Vivan, Tanishka, Akshayan, Bhavya, Abdul, Nijwara, Rishit, Anugraha, Tarun, and Tanushri. Thank you. Next up we have BVM Global School, Perungudi. Kaushik, Trinetra, Siva Subramanian, Sara, Kumaran, and Lithisa. Thank you. So the last school of this award segment, I invite Wells Vidyashram Senior Secondary School, Palavaram. Hena, Sarveshwar, Gaushik, Akshata, Harshvardhan, and Mariam. Okay, so we'll have one more school covered in this segment, which is Don Bosco School of Excellence, Egmore. Sai Hishant, Enolia, Rishi, Andrea, Jeremiah, Asumta, Anish, Kushi, Jeswin, Angel, Mohammed, and Andre Wellington. Thank you. I hear that some students have fallen sick from Devi Academy, so I will cover them as well. So from Devi Academies have Mitran, Harini, Veerabagu, Sai, Advik, Loshika, Vedin, Anu, Sarvesh, Mokshana, Arjun, and Vishaga. May I request the school representative from Devi Academy also to kindly accompany. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Devi Academy. So next up, we have a short 10 minutes refreshment break. Post that, we'll have an interesting session on CESA projects and one more panel discussion on scaling impact through sports. See you all in another 10 minutes. Thank you. There are refreshments.
for PE grassroots level, physical education and sports. So this is the comprehensive framework which we are talking about, EduSwasth. And in the last session, you would have seen one of the points that come out is quantitative approaches. We as tech, named for technology in the country as globally, we would like to quantify sports rather than qualitative, especially biases, gut feeling we call it, but then can we associate some numbers? Yes. And that's what we plan. So what is the current state? Why EduSwasth? We all know, and I don't need to go over quantifiable methods. We lack scientific and quantifiable methods. And when we talk about talent scouting, see, one of the things people talked about in the last session as well is balancing, incentivization, right? So why do kids or parents, as a parent, will I be able to put my son in sports? Yes and no, right? Yes, if there is a future, right? Everybody thinks about it. And that's where we are saying talent scouting plays a role, whether he's fit, whether there is a scope for him in a particular sport. And also backup options. We'll talk about digital platforms where we can teach, tech through sports and sports through tech, so that there is backup options for kid who pursue sports as a career or who pursue sports as mainstream, right? And then currently that is missing, and we don't have any standardized methods to track and monitor, right? So we don't do this tracking and monitor like we do ourselves just using a watch, but kids don't have that, right? As kids, how much tech intervention we do, especially in the PE space, is next to negligible, right? So that's what we want to bring in, and it's high time, because a recent technology, a recent study points out that 50% of adult in Indian population is physically unfit, as per WHO standards. And by the way, we all know WHO standards. WHO standards are just the bare minimum. I don't think so I will meet those standards even, right? But that's where we are currently today. So what are we trying to do? We want to try to bring in the entire ecosystem, the entire, all the stakeholders, right from kids, parents, teachers, principal, and the government at large. So if you think about what are the goals of EduSwasth framework, quantified self-potential. Every kid wants to know, then today we are in a competitive world and comparisons are inevitable. Every kid wants to compare or see for themselves how they are improving or doing that. And that's where we talk about quantified self-potential for the kids through tech intervention. And this also helps in parents as well to see where they stand. And then we talk about digital coaching support through Swayam Plus and NPTEL. That's our arm of India's largest platform for education, NPTEL as well as Swayam Plus. And that we already have sports courses in there, as Dr. Magesh pointed out in the morning. And then the second one for the PE teachers and schools, what is in it for them? Talent identification in individual sports. So the key word is return on investment. Everybody who wants to see is an ROI, and for a kid or a parent, quantifying themselves is an ROI. And for PE teachers and principals, it's about talent identification in individual sports. And at a larger system, we want to kind of come up with a report card where we can talk to the government saying how wellness is, sports and wellness, or fitness, this Fit India program, etc. How is it being implemented? How is it effective? So that's the government at a large we want to tackle. So in fact, if you look at Kendriya Vidyalayas alone, they host a wide variety of sports. And can we do some intervention both at sports and physical education? That's what this EduSwasth is all about. So the plan is, we call it Schools in Motion. Okay, so we have schools, and then we have programs that is for monitoring programs through tech interventions, and then research happening, and then continuous research and development that is communicated to schools which are in motion. That's our overall plan, and we have a scientific driven approach we would take, and then tracking solutions in partnership with education and other organizations, and long-term strategic partnerships with schools as well as education institutions, and finally creation of a smart health app, like just one app, one like your, one app for many of these purposes we do. Can I track myself using a single app? Or the kids' health? Like, we talk about Fiji as a app, school as a WhatsApp group, etc. Can we have one app which can track, your kids' well-being? And that's what, including nutrition, etc. Right? So these are some of the smart devices which we already, the measuring devices in green color, which we have already developed and deployed at IIT Madras in various locations. So we talk about a smart feet, an exercise platform, and then a boxing system, a tracking system for badminton, cricket, and tennis, all just using mobile cameras, a cost-effective one. So we'll show that quickly. I'll get into the specifics. So I'll go into where we want to, on a broader picture. So this is in alignment with NCERT, recent NCERT guidelines, where the schools are required to start getting the report cards, PE report card for kids, like your regular physical education, what kids are doing in the school. So today probably we are at the leftmost, where unfit is high. And with the introduction of this report and with appropriate training, we would like to see gradually shift from the left side of the pie to the right side of the pie, with measurements like cardiovascular, muscular strength, etc. being measured by tech rather than just subjective measures. So that's where. So I'll get into some of the product or specs that are already specifications that are already being developed at IIT Madras, and it's deployed. So this is a smart feet, where we call it as a smart feet, where we actually have a shoe insole, a smart insole placed inside the foot of kids or even adults, that can track a whole bunch of metrics. Provide you about gait, for instance, things like flat foot. I'm sure many of you would have heard this term flat foot. That could be because of some improper footwear or improper exercise or no exercise, lot of things. So we have the ability to track information, things like flat foot, issues with toe walking, heel walking. These are something common among young kids, which could lead to complications, right? So we provide an entire online gait analysis, or what we call walking pattern, walking, running, and then see if this could be, and we also provide a report card that could be used to further, advance or train them, coach them appropriately. So that's something which is already in place, and then we have developed at IIT Madras. So we have current capabilities, measures a whole bunch of things that you can see. I will not bore you with the tech, but I would just want to give you an overview of, it's a gait platform which can do a whole bunch of things for the kid, understand their movement patterns. That is the first thing, right? When they start walking, that's the first thing you want to know. How do they walk? Is the pattern matching, or is it, fit? Are they fit, or, are they doing something abnormal? That can be done using this device. So how could it help? So it cuts across various sports. So you can think of, in cricket, a person playing a back foot shot versus a front foot shot, right? Even kids, are they to be coached, differently, etc., can be inferred from this device. So, yeah. So this is how we think it can help the PE ecosystem, right from your, weight distribution, your, autism. There are studies that can show us that autism could be also, something that can be detected using these foot movements. And then, you can, think about preventing foot, joint, and muscle problems, etc., flat foots, tiptoe walking, a whole bunch of things, just using this smart fit. And this is our future work, and this is mostly tech. So we would want to discuss more about, other identifying specific patterns, like, personalized medicine. We talk about personalized physical education, how we could personalize it for a kid over a period of time, right? That's what we are going ahead with. And this is another platform, which is a smart exercise platform for people like me and people like, many of the adults, as well as for kids who, gadgets. So can we make it interesting and then make them work out in front of gadgets? Use it for positive rather than just using it for, other purposes. So here is a trainer doing training in the left-hand side, and then the other is my You can run the video. Okay. I think I should be able to run the video again. So the right hand side is my the person who developed it doing an exercise. In my lab, he is the only fit person who can do this sit up, not me. So squats, he can do the squats better. So he is doing it right, and it counts the repetitions. And it also, actually, interestingly, it also measures your heart rate just from images. No variables, nothing. Okay, so that's a small research component we added for our satisfaction as a researcher. I don't know how much of it will be of use, but it's just you done using your images to measure your heart rate, right? And current capabilities, we track about 12 joint angles. We add calories burned during exercises or just given without any gadgets, without holding anything, heart rate. And then we have actually this has been field tested with IPL coaches. So the left hand side actually is an IPL coach, okay, for women's IPL team. And then this is our thing. So how can it help PE system? Gamify things. Today people are into gadgets. So why don't we gamify so that go in the path which the kids take rather than pulling them, right? It's the same thing I use for my kid. So that's where it could help. Fitness tracker, but on a gamification mode. And then leaderboard, again, leaderboard, taunts, etc. I myself play games with my kids, so I know what a leaderboard means, what taunting means. So that's where we are heading to, and that's where we can pull in more kids to do physical, fitness training rather than just into e-games, etc. And then we also have sports-specific apps. So some of the parents here or schools may be interested in that are we have tracked the entire tennis, for instance, using a single mobile phone. Okay, so it's a small app which runs in your phone. You can throw the phone in any area of the court. Of course, not in the play area, but outside the play area, anywhere in the court. And it could actually track the ball, the player. So it can tell you how quickly your kid moved to pick up the ball, how much net clearance he did, where did the ball pitch, how much the other player responded, what kind of shot he played, so if you know tennis, how the arm length between the ball and the bat. These are some of the critical things in tennis. We track all of them using your 10,000 rupees or whatever X amount using mobile. This has no competitors in the globe except for one company called Swing Vision, where they only use it for Apple cams, Apple mobile phones. It runs only on Apple phone. And of course, I don't think so. Many of us, or at least many of us like me, cannot afford Apple phones easily. So this is for somebody like common man who can just use any mobile to track their kids' day-to-day improvement. And this has been now extended to badminton as well. Right? So because in the schools, badminton is common. I think more than tennis, badminton is a common sport. And badminton, we are now doing the same thing again using single camera, single mobile phone placed at the end of the court. We track the ball, the birdie, the players as well as the court, and give statistics as whether he played backhand shot, what was the distance which it traveled, the birdie traveled, which place it pitched, landed. So the landing statistics, etc., as a report to the parent as well as the kids. So this is for racket games like badminton. We have also extended it to the popular sport of the country, of course, cricket. Okay, so we do the same for cricket, but in the interest of time, I have not put it here. Okay, so we do the same thing with cricket, especially work with IPL teams as well on this to come up with the same philosophy of tracking ball, player. Again, all with mobile cams, so cost-effective solutions. So that is where we are to do research to bring sports or fitness to an affordable level rather than to a high cost or high-end tech interventions, but at an affordable cost. That has been the philosophy of our center, and in that we have extended it to cricket as well. And of course, something to do with other sports like where some fancy sports like boxing, for instance. We have been using this, deployed it in Inspire Institute of Sports, where Olympic boxers, some of them got trained. Oh, okay. Yeah, you can see the video now. So we track everything again from a cost-effective, simple camera mounted on the top of the boxing ring. Just using one camera, we track the players, we track the punches, where the punch landed, and we also track about their, what zones, etc. So you can see continuously we have been tracking, and we give a whole bunch of metrics, like movement metrics, punch metrics, etc. So this is for, this may not be fitting for school cases where there is no combat sports, but again, those of them who are outside who are willing to, yes, we have worked in boxing, and we are now focusing on other sports which are more used in grassroots level, like athletics. For instance, the shoe insoles I talked about has a wide application in athletics, and as well things in long jump, javelin, and relay, etc. So that's in a nutshell we do at CESA, focusing on tech products in various sports, and then we, I said we do the same thing with cricket, and then we have also started looking at hockey and football as such. Right? So this is some kind of dashboard which is currently in place for EduSwast, where we think of all the stakeholders bringing in various metrics from insoles, from racket sports, from exercise platforms, as well as your wearables, day-to-day wearables. This has a provision to capture data from wearables that you use regularly, like your watches, analyze them in a concrete, and then come up with a report card. We already have a report card made, and that is where we are with regard to EduSwast. Okay, and then I was asked to complete it shorter, and I think I'm on time. Okay, with that, I'll stop.
Thank you, Dr. Babji. I'd invite Somil to felicitate Dr. Babji, please. Thank you, sir, for your insights into bringing sports science and sports tech together. And in fact, personalization is a big challenge and problem, especially at grassroots school system level. And because each body responds differently to the same content. And that level of personalization can only happen with the data analytics and things which are happening. So hopefully we'll soon see this app and the work around that in the school system. Next up, we are moving to our last formal session in terms of a panel session of the day, which is scaling impact through sports. Now, this session is largely on how are stakeholders supporting or finding resources sports, and how can we maximize that, because scaling of sports and the impact requires resources, whether it's a state through policy making or through private CSI initiatives. So we will have stakeholders talking about that. So let me just, and I'm the moderator for this session. Let me invite the panelists for this session, starting with KL Rao, Chief of Social Policy and Head of UNICEF Chennai office. He's an economist by training and a development professional for last 30 years now. Purnima Shankar, Head of HR and CSR, Latent View Analytics India, has been involved deeply with the employee engagement and social outreach for Latent View. Also has been anchoring the CKL football program Latent View has launched 4 years back. Dr. Pralay Majumdar, Senior Project Advisor, IIT Madras, accomplished academician, a sports science expert in India, was head of sports science at Sports Authority of India for long years. Also been involved in policy making at various levels, including National Education Policy 2020. And then we have Victor Praveen Kumar, Associate Vice President, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and CSR. 22 plus years in CSR, employee engagement, and sustainability. Was with Tata Group earlier, handling the ESG initiatives over there. And lastly, but not the least, LV Navaneet, the CEO of the Hindu Group, consummate media professional, 20 5 years plus, served across the globe and had as well as one of the leaders for advertising and marketing. So that's the panel, ladies and gentlemen, and I will join them and take it from there. Thank you. Thank you once again. And so let me just give you a quick context of the panel, and then we can go around. Scaling impact through sports, and so impact, trying to capture in two parts. One is the sporting outcomes that we can get from sports, and we know athletic success, health, fitness, we've spoken about all that. And the second, which is more important and not well understood in the school panel, spoke about that briefly. How can sport help with the non-sporting outcomes, which is a broader developmental context, whether it's inclusion, gender, youth engagement, and things which sport perhaps may not be the first choice for many people who want to intervene. So in the scale, I'm also trying to contextualize. Scale happens either in the markets, for the solution markets can solve, or with the government. And the social sector, civil society comes in between, bridges these two. Sport somehow fits or straddles all these three elements. Markets largely have been focused on the athletic success. We know that a lot of money coming in there. Government has been trying to look at getting sport into school system. There are various bills and policies, we'll speak about that, to ensure that access to sport, which is one of the fundamental rights, and we spoke about that, is trying to scale sport. Now, both are important to create the impact I spoke of, and to keep the right balance at an impact level on using the right interventions at right places, and second, also using the right set of resources, whether government, market, or support from social sector. So this is, just want to set a broad context of what we are trying, and I think we'll use various lenses given the background of the panelists here. There are corporates who are with us supporting through their CSR funding. There is Victor and Purnima come from that background. We have Dr. Pralay, and I hope policy making and the lens that from there will come from there. We have KL Rao representing UNICEF, which is straddling between all three actually, and figuring out what is the best way to, as a multilateral, support that. And we have the media, which is very important in terms of advocacy. So let me start with KL Rao, given what we just spoke of. And UNICEF, in fact, I don't know how many of you know that UNICEF actually coined the term sport for development back in the day. They, in fact, the first, I think, charter that came out before SDGs happened, and sport for development was coined by UNICEF, and they have been championing that cause for a while. And I believe sport for development brings out the non-sporting outcomes piece I was speaking of. Now, how far are we from that vision? How is that being internalized and done? Maybe you could start that off, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you very much, and I'm glad to be here, and it's wonderful to see all of you here, especially the children, especially when it is declared as a holiday in Chennai. It's sometimes painful, I know, as children to be out on a rainy day and sitting in a room. Out in a rainy day is easy, but sitting in a room is very difficult. So I think one round of applause for all the kids who are here. And another thing as UNICEF, before I speak anything else on sports for development, another thing which we remind ourselves, and which I will not say we fail, but there are what are called 4 legs in terms of the child rights, or 4 factors or 4 areas. One of them is called basically survival, that is, the kid is born. Then we have something called development, then there's something called protection, and finally, I'm reminding myself as well, finally it's called participation. It's a reminder to all of us that I think we should take at least 5 minutes out to allow the kids to speak. And I had been failing in this always. I conduct so many, when the agenda was given, I should have told Parminder that I think in the end there is some session. But otherwise, we had exactly 4 or 5 days back, last week we had a session on the Children's Day where we had children with disabilities and we had only them speaking for almost 2 hours. The minister said she'll be there for 1 hour, but she stayed for 2 hours. So participation is important. So with that, as Parminder has rightly said, way back in 2000, we have defined what is called sports for development. We call it S for D. And if you look at the definition, because that's the first point, because then there is a common understanding. So sports for development has it's for children and adults. It's not just for children, it's not just for adults. So it's children and adults, sports and any other physical activity. And here it becomes interesting. It's for personal and social development. There's nowhere economic development involved. It's personal and social development. So after defining that, UNICEF tried to, for around 15 years or so, try to look at various segues, various ways of activating it. And finally, somewhere in 2017, we came out with a research report which essentially showed the preliminary impact of sports on especially ECD, early child development. Just as a matter of fact, first 1,000 days of a child, right, the child is conceived, 9 months in the womb, and first 2 years, that is 365 into 365, 730 plus 9 months, 270, 1,000 days. These are the 1,000 days which make a huge difference in the lifetime of an individual. And any investment that is done, apart from this, another 6 years, as we were talking about return on investment, is for every $1 or 1 rupee invested, during the lifetime, 13 rupees is the return. It's a fact. And to get that return, the most important factor apart from nutrition and everything is the mental well-being, which is dependent on the physical well-being of the child. And when we say physical well-being, we have started what is called early child development center in Kerala on especially autism. And Mr. Nair, who has set up that CDC, said, if autism is detected within first 3 years, he said, I can assure you 100% it can be cured. If it is detected after 3rd year, 100% it cannot be cured. As simple as that. Why I'm saying that is, sports plays a very important role on 4 areas that the analysis has been done. We have an office of innovation called Innocenti, which does research. It was published in 2017, where 15 years of sports for development. So in terms of education, in terms of emotional well-being, in terms of participation of the child, and finally, of course, what is called inclusion. Inclusion, I'll give you an example where the football club, the Barcelona football club, has committed around 200 million over a period of 7 years in 60 countries, and it impacted lives of 2 million children. 2 million children at the grassroots level. So, simple fact is that there is no dearth of resources, there's dearth of evidence to, advocate with the government. We'll talk about a bit later. But the point here is that investment in sports, not to achieve medals, but investment in sports leads to not just economic empowerment, but COVID has shown that mental health also becomes a key challenge. And finally, most of the places where low income countries, sports is the only way for economic empowerment. And the last point I would like to say, in India, unfortunately, if you look at the economic development, why we have to talk sports is, if you look at economic development, we moved from an agriculture economy to a service sector driven economy. More than 50% today is coming from service sector. Whereas our education system has not kept pace. Therefore, today, our education system is more like one problem, one solution, whereas service sector needs one problem, multiple solutions, for which it's important that how do you inculcate anything beyond the classroom, which is the socialization and personal development.
Sure.
These two keep key. Thank you.
So thank you. I think that sets gives the right context. And in fact, let me go Dr. Pralay on the same point where, what KL Rao is saying that broader definition of sport inclusion are not necessarily the athletic success, the sporting outcomes. And that's necessary for scale as well, because 90% of children may not play to become athletes, only 10% will. In your view, given drawing your involvement in policy creation and various parts of that, how can policy improve adoption of sport at the school and community level in the manner that we are defining? Is that the vision or anything else that you could add to that?
Well, first of all, thank you very much. I extend my thanks to Sports Village for inviting me. I will tell you a small story so that the small tiny tot would be understanding that. If anybody asks you, the fastest man and fastest woman in one Olympic, which is the country who produced that? The name of the country is Jamaica. One is Usain Bolt, and the second one is Shelley Ann Fraser. Both of them in Beijing Olympic, they were the fastest man and fastest woman. While making the curriculum for NEP, we just dig out the story of the Olympic story of different countries. And while assessing that, what we have found that this particular Jamaica, which is a country of music, beach, dance, and different kind of flavor, but if you see the physical education curriculum, it is very robust, and this physical education curriculum not only robust and exhaustive, but it is in the safe hand of the physical education teachers. And these physical education teachers are so dedicated, they used to have a plan. If you see the competition calendar for Jamaica, at the age of 3 they start the training. At the age, they used to showcase their sprinting ability in sports day, and each school has got celebrate their own sports day. It is in the culture of the heritage of that. Then the second thing, at the age of 9, they used to call that inter-secondary ISSA, that is the brand, that is also called as champ, where at the pre-10, they used to showcase their sprinting ability in the national level. So that is how this country has got that kind of glory, and they used to mark for the Olympic sports. But if you see the pathway of any of the success story of the champion, basically the father or the mother conceives the champion, parent and teachers, they discover the champion. Coach makes the champion, there is no second thought on that. Then scientists, somehow I have seen some of the thing what we are doing for the CESA, which can be responsible for molding the champion. Then comes to society, accepts the champion, then country acclaims the champion, and world recognize the champion. That is a pathway. And now, if you see particularly unless they come to that glory, there is no funding. The problem, the real problem is up to the age of when they are hit the national, they got the national medal, up to that there is a huge struggle all the people, the successful athlete they face. And the moment they are in the national scenario, the flow of money is so huge. I think there are a lot of agencies, they fund them just to have the branding of that particular athlete. And that money is not required. I am not against the money, against the corporate funding, but the thing what is more important that in the policy level, we should encourage to access the facility of the athlete, not the financial big money, which is, government is, should look into it. Thank you.
Sure. No, thank you. That's a very important point you make in terms of athletes' journey, and most athletes will at some point fall away from this pathway in any case. Very few are professionally able to sustain themselves beyond a certain point. So let me come to Purnima and followed by Victor. While you have been supporting sports at a grassroots level for a while, so maybe I have two questions which I would like to ask you. One is, what was the driver internally for you to pick sport and support that? And second, of course, you are supporting where the funding is actually missing, which is before a champion is created on the broader context. And at this point, we don't even know whether the investment we're making for athletic success will actually yield that success. It may yield just a more balanced individual in whatever they're trying to do at a different level. Just want to check with you on that. One is the internal thinking around why sport, and second, why pick grassroots or school sports?
Thank you, Parminder. So just let me quickly introduce myself. I represent Latent View. It's a data analytic company, and we are based out of Chennai. So the average age of employees in our company is 25. We were recognized as the best millennial workplace for employees to work. So with that in mind, when we were curating our CSR program, while we did have initially a lot of, our focus was diverse, we were figuring out what we wanted. When we were talking or when employees came up with sports or any program associated with sports, we found the spark. We found it easy to connect with the employees, and we thought we wanted to develop a program which is one focused a lot with employee volunteering engagement. Second, we've always been young and brand ourselves as young and curious. We wanted to catch students or with our thematic area of education, focus on students' education through sports, because that was something which we thought, while education, or we are a math company, we are a data company, while education is very important, we have a lot of diversity, the leadership, people, employees, and I also found out one very interesting thing. Most of the young people who join us are from A, B schools, B institutions across India. And somewhere during the course of their education, they all would have experienced sport, but they would not have been able to maybe complete it. I found them very curious, also participative, to pick up where they stopped. I found that very much high. And that's how our flagship, which is the Chennai Kalpand League, was born. Very different, self-curated by the employees, where our focus is to train, have match play exposure in football for government schools, because we found that is where it is missing in terms of giving match play exposure, giving them the training, finding stars, and trying to integrate them with the available facilities. So sports was just something which came up very easily. We didn't have to think much about it.
So I think what you're saying is that given the young demography of the employee base, sport does appeal regardless of their vocation, many of them follow sport and it aligns very well with that piece. Victor, you have a different view on that, or internally, what was the thinking when you picked sport? And
Definitely, yeah. So I belong to Sagility India Limited. My name is Victor Praveen Kumar. I have been introduced earlier. So we are a fairly young organization. We are into the CSR for the past couple of years. Sagility's partners are up into many areas, and sports is one of the focus. So why do we focus on sports? One of our focus areas is empowering local communities. So that is where it starts. And we work with different sets of beneficiaries. So we start with the children, and we also work with the youth on employment, and we are also working with people of different gender. So this is our coverage. And when we look at the larger group that is benefiting, if you look at the children, there are a lot of intervention that happens in the education area. But education is mental, but to get there, there are a lot of speakers who mentioned that the mind and body are connected, and if they are focused on the right way, that's well driven. So that's the premise where it started. Now, looking at sports, the whole outlook so far, wherever we look at, our generations, coming generations, whatever it is, the topmost thing is sports is always recognized only when it is funky, very special, and that's an attention, right? You can't just go and say my child played hopscotch, my child played gilli danda or whatever. So which is a sport, but and that's one of the thought processes. And when we look at the parents' thought processes on over the generational development, we can always see we are transitioning from a generation which was looking at income as the primary outcome of education. Right? The current generation is Gen Z, and we are dealing between 4 generations, between the boomer to the Gen Z, which is in the whole transition, the understanding of the sports is completely different. So we are living in an era where there are 2 sets of people that exist. I talk about diversity because one of my areas is also diversity. So we are living among 2 sets of people. You know, the digital natives, the guys who are born and found with mobiles in this room, everywhere, wherever we go, there is a device in their hand. The second is the digital immigrants, which are the people who were born before but started adopting technology. Now, what's the clash here? I got a lot of things. Sports is completely looked at as in a different way, right? We will say sport has to be played, but this generation is saying, I will have sports in my hand, and I will watch sports in the phone. And we can't say, why do you always watch somebody else playing a game in a TV? Now, we also have been doing that, right? Somebody played soccer, somebody plays cricket, we watch. Are we going out and playing? No. So these are some of the sets there where we are looking at sports and how the whole outset is. And when we look at the funky ways, today there are a lot of ways misleading the children in the community, right? To stand apart, suddenly everybody's hair looks like a mushroom, right? And somebody else is aping and imitating something that is very funky from somewhere else. And that is where habits formation is picked up. And the role models are that. And what has to be changed is I am different, but my difference is not the way that I project myself in some clunky way, but it's very well organized and disciplined. So sports is the one connector where every class student goes through the regular sets. What is sports providing right now? A step-by-step approach. You might fail. You will have to pick up from where you fell down. Follow a process, a procedure. And the game is played in a very different way, and you might lose. Losing is fine. Your gadgets, you always lose and immediately start and you have a life immediately. But in a sports, it is the next match you have to wait, prepare and move. You know, such kind of a thing. And going there in a mobile it's not just like you get all the strength at the moment you press a button. But in sports, you build it, right? Most of the school children in 5 of the government schools that we work with go through turns taking, physical exercise, upper body training, and turns taking, passing on. We have been in some of the schools where this happened, and we are first level observants of all this. So that's the context where we go into, and there are more to come, but we are also guided by the larger social cause, which is the Sustainable Development Goals. So we have the health and wellness, quality education, and gender equality, and peace and strong institution. Peace, justice, strong institutions are our guidance area. So all this fits in. These are different vertices of a larger structure. We can call it a triangle, square, whatever it is, but everything gets pulled in and we have a larger place to cover. So yeah, that's where we are intervening.
Well, thank you. I think in terms of sports, touching various elements which K.L. Rao earlier mentioned in terms of, and second, I think you bring the point of digital engagement and physical engagement, which is another topic itself in terms of, the pros and cons of both and the balance between that. But let me move to Navneet on the role of media. We heard Ayan earlier as well on that. And how do you see, given the staying focused on the scaling impact through sport and maybe some of the problem statements which have come out, grassroots, lack of mind share and money or resources, there is abundance in quotes, at least perceptibly speaking, at top, but not the bottom of the pyramid. Has media been shaping that narrative, or is it a victim of this narrative?
Thank you. I think some of this, my friend and colleague Ayan spoke about in the morning in terms of what media does well, what media could do better, what we do well, and what our priorities are. I won't repeat that, but I'll build on what he said and respond to some of what I think media has a big role in general to play. And the way we look at grassroots sports is that's a problem to be solved. But there are different stakeholders, and what you need to solve for each of the stakeholders is very different. So if I were to put it in simple but hopefully not simplistic terms, you need to solve for students, and the problem to be solved for students is inspiration. The problem to be solved for parents is validation. The problem to be solved for those with CSR funds is enough motivation for prioritization, because the money exists. Where do you? And the problem to be solved for educators, policymakers, and government is all the above, and a clear roadmap for activation through the right intervention. So that sort of covers the entire gamut, and I think media sits at a vantage point which can connect and stitch this ecosystem together. And at least for the Hindu group in general, and for Sportstar in particular, we see our role in this as not just highlighting the problems, but we want to play a very active role in being part of the solution. And some of the stuff we do with our Sportstar conclaves, I think are a step in the right direction, and if time permits, we'll speak about it a bit later.
Thank you, Navneet, and I think we will come back to you. So I would maybe now go back again and give you a follow-on based on what you spoke earlier. Maybe short responses, maybe a couple of minutes would help, given we're running a little behind. And we may have a time for one question if anybody wants to, please keep it prepared. But let me start with L.B. Rao again, and let me just ask you a slightly more irreverent question based on. So there has been this thinking, this work UNICEF and a lot of other bodies are doing on sport for development. And for the last couple of decades now, since the first charter came out, do you think enough has been done actually on ground to actualize that vision? Enough resources, enough work, and if not, what is coming in the way?
Yeah, thank you for that. Essentially, it's a journey. Therefore, there's no end point to it. Because as somebody asked, when does UNICEF become irrelevant? I said the day children stop taking birth, it becomes irrelevant. So it's a journey. So therefore, when you're talking about journey, then you also look at prioritization. Has enough been done? Obviously no, because there are SDG goals and also there's a dearth in terms of research. So I would put it into 4 kind of points, taking from what has been said my earlier speaker about different levels of engagement. One is the evidence generation. That's the key. Evidence in terms of what it means to invest in children, allowing them to play. I'm not even talking about allowing them to go to a playground and pay money. Simple example is we're working with Kerala, the first of its kind in the world, urban policy. We are struggling to define what is a neighborhood from a child's perspective. What does a child think in today's world with all high-rise buildings? What is a neighborhood? Because that defines providing security, safe spaces, play spaces and all that. We are still struggling. There is no universally accepted definition of neighborhood. I'm talking about the complexity of this issue. So every day when I go to, I stay in a complex, I go there, thousands of times the RWA said that kids should not play football in this parking space. Kids said, we give a damn, we play. So that's the attitude of children. They want to do something, they'll do it. As elders, as parents, as policymakers, we have to provide the space. So that's one area where evidence generation is critical. And in India, we need to generate that evidence over a longer period of time. So that's one area. Second, advocacy at different levels with government, which now it's listening. With the adherence, they will start, we have rural sports happening. 2, the community. And 3, the parents. With parents, where are they, how are they listening? Children are smart today. They know to get their way through. But are the parents looking at from a children's lens? That is where we talk about participating, hearing the voice. So that's the second in terms of advocacy. Third and fourth is innovation and kind of resources, which I don't think that is dearth of resources. I mean, India, we know that 25,000 to 30,000 crores is the CSR fund annually. How much is going to sports? Minuscule. So resource is not a challenge. I feel evidence is a challenge, and evidence will take long time, and that is where IITs can come in. Thank you.
Heartening to hear that resource is not a challenge. It seems to be a challenge for some of us, and I think that was my question to both the corporates here. But before that, I would just go to Dr. Pralay once, and we heard about Dr. Babji speaking about sports tech, sports science. You spoke about policy and personalization. That is I think it's known that that's a way to scale sport using tech and sports science principles of that. In your experience, what is coming in the way? Why aren't we able to at grassroots level? Government school system, all you have is even you don't even have a PE teacher. Forget, there's no teacher, a PE teacher in primary schools. So where is the gap from policy to all the things we hear versus what is actually available and visible in the school system?
Well, policy-wise, we have a policy framework, even National Education Policy 2020 and 23. We are making some of the things. We have started making the curriculum, and we wanted to reach out to physical education scholastic program for students as well as the teachers. Teachers manual, so far there was no structured thing which we are making now through NCRT. But in the morning, while we were discussing some of the points which is very realistic, that policy-wise it's everything in place, but when it comes to the implementation, there are a lot of hassles. So. First of all, if you see the standard of the physical education in the country, why we are comparing the world like US or the Europe, there are a huge shift of educational difference in physical education structure itself. Because if you see the standard of the, with all respect to the physical education teachers, but I think the physical education in the country needs to be revamped very seriously. Because if we think that it's a nation, it's a sporting nation, then the people who are working with the athlete, who are working with the physical education program, they should be quite apt and they should be quite adequate with the modernization of the standard of things. The second thing is, which you were pointing out about the technology, because we have seen that Khelo India, there are a lot of athletes, their assessment is being done, but the noise is lousy, because there are a lot of noise while we are taking the data for different motor quality assessment and the fitness assessment part. So we wanted to minimize the noise. Even the different countries have thought about that. And we basically, because of, again, who are assessing them, we wanted to minimize that, and it is totally, we will have the technology-driven program, what Professor Babji has already shown it. So that is how we can, even one thing, I sorry for taking time, one thing we wanted to involve for the PE teachers program through the platform, e-platform. So 10 hours or 20 hours program. We have already, Professor Mahesh in the morning has already talked about, we have already started 7 verticals of sports science program which are in place under NPTEL, and the 4 more are being added. So we are taking, this is a very small effort, I do understand, because the population is so vast, and if you see the physical education teachers, I think they're a massive number. And we are, from morning I was listening, mainly we are discussing about the urbanized structure. We have not gone to the rural structure, which is awful. So that kind of thing in which we wanted to elevate, then there should be the effort from all corners that can solve the problem.
Well, thanks. I think, be that as it may, that using technology is one answer of building capacity and effectiveness of PE teachers, at least the ones who are there. Let me just quickly go back to, and short responses would help. Again, the same question, which is, while I heard from KL Rao that there is no dearth of money or investments which are coming into, but we see there's a trickle at our grassroots level, and we also on the same side of the table. We're trying to make do with what we have. How do we raise more resources? What needs to be done in your view? Let's say a simple question of if you're spending 10 rupees out of your 100 rupees of CSR spend, how can you make it 40 rupees? Is it possible? What would be required to do that? Yeah, you want to go first, Poonam?
Yeah, okay. Fine. So, I will go back to evidence, right? So, evidence was what Professor was mentioning earlier. And that is what has been everywhere we don't listen for more than 15 seconds and then we are just gone. And wherever we do, whatever we observe, we believe if there are evidence that exists. And when we talk about something, why do you want to say that? And can you show something has happened? Is the question that comes to us. There isn't enough data or the clear, quicker anecdotes that we can narrate back to say that this is very effective. And that is where I think that the easiest and the very coolest thing and the most attractive thing of quicker investment on something that everybody has seen and everybody can immediately get an output, that's where people are investing. So they think, I did not study in a good school, I see education is not very good, so let me put some money there. If healthcare is not great, then I'll put something, and people stick there. So evidence is one thing. The second thing, why Sagility went into this area is one more interesting area. So we have 2 things, the intent and also the resource. So We want to see to that the holistic development of a child is very important. Education is process. If somebody can enable for us, so there is a partner who can sports village. Number two, the resource, the second part of it from the money perspective, that is what has been told. The second one is, look at all the resources that we have in India right now. India is growing and shining, which means our population is increasing and the land is reducing, so there is no play area. People have all moved into rooms and even in the rural areas. So now if there is an option for where a resource is available to a school where the PE period or an PE input is provided by an organization which will boost the well-being of a child, then we are progressing in the right direction. So that is where our investments came in, and I think quicker decisions and quick outcomes, which are not qualitative very good, but supported by quantitative data that is widespread.
Sure. That's a point Kela also made, body of evidence, and if seeing demonstrated success, if we are visible, and Purnima, to add, because you have anyway been growing your spend in sport, we know that. Over the years, what has been your experience? Why do you think you've been able to grow that?
So,
similar reason or something else?
I think one is whatever we are doing is very data driven. So I would say we analyze, we know where the problem is, what problem we can solve exactly as you said. I cannot go, and I'm not interested in solving the elite problem. We want tangible, something that I and my employees can feel. And we also know that most government schools have the resources in terms of space, in terms of intent. I think it's very positive that, you know, when we are partnering with an organization, we see the Chennai Corporation also very supportive in terms of saying, okay, I will, you know, you take your time and then I will dedicate. So we see a lot of good intent from parents, from teachers. So in terms of picking up is what we are doing. In terms of resources, what I would add on is where the challenge is. Companies like us, we do have the intent, but it's not that we have all the resources. A platform where I know the government has come up with something called Nama Chennai, but how you can propagate it. So I have a wonderful plan and I have an idea which is more better when it spreads to scale, but I don't have the scale for that. So can like-minded corporates come pitch in for that, pool in, and make it big? I think policymakers, partners like you should spread that and create that. I have a kitty. He has a kitty too. If all of it is in one, you know, or a maybe more focused area, otherwise people are just doing everything here and there. It can be some policy, it's from the government which says, okay, we want to develop, I want to have 10 football, or I want to have a football forum in Tamil Nadu. That statement has to come somewhere, and you pool in corporates for that, rather than having individual people just doing individually what they want.
So, one quick addition, not more than 10-15 seconds. The larger goal, why do you want to do something, is also to be very interesting. So two things that came. Me and Aksa, we come from a meeting yesterday night where we have a resource that is allocated to you based on a discussion decision. I think the official communication will reach you soon. Two things. The Olympics is going to happen in 2036 in India. So this generation, all sitting here, would be playing or representing India. Are we putting somebody there? It's a filtration process. 100 people start, one person might end up there. There is a great mention about why can't an IIT and an Olympian? That's the vision. And if that is told, that's great. One. Number two, some things that are really worrying us. How do we solve that, right? You know, recently, about a couple of months back, which is now a faded memory to most of us, there has been a violence on a person, and that person was a female and an educated doctor. And at that point in time, a lot of things were talked and forgotten. Now we carried that thought process. We were just discussing how do we empower girl children right at the beginning at the school level. So Project Shakti, we are already taking about another 80 students. So And then we are taking about 80 students who are into the sports excellence program, where you have the kabaddi and kho. And we were able to take this 80, but a deeper engagement would be much better, because right now nutrition is a problem. The schools provide morning and afternoon in the government schools, but what happens in the afternoon when they do? So nutrition is a support. So when there are evidences, when there are intents, when there are proper ways to convince, and there is a larger goal, the decision making becomes easier.
Got it.
Thanks.
No, thanks. I think that, so I'll summarize that. Very important point. So Navneet, driving resources to the bottom of the pyramid, how can media help?
By talking more about it, by doing events like this ourselves and getting people together, by participating in initiatives such as this, where not only the best minds, but minds that can actually do something about it. That's a role we take seriously, and we'll continue to do that.
Just one point I'll add. Most of you would have seen it was done in Allahabad, Prayagraj, sorry. And then we had G20 last year, and also you had recently a hockey sports event. There's one common element in all this, which is where I'm talking about resources. And also one more instance of, I come from consulting firms, the big fours. One of the big fours, I think second is also coming up, have set up a sports vertical. And usually these consulting firms will not set up sports vertical or any vertical unless they see a pot of at least 80 to 100 CR in the next 2-3 years. So which means there is money there. Two, whether it is Kumbh Mela or whether it is a sports event or G20. G20, it's around 450 crores was spent to get service of consulting firms. So if consulting firm is going somewhere, it means there is money there. So that shows, so what is required is to bridge that gap. Number School and Foundation is there, where just started 2 years back, already 620 crores are brought from various sources, but the schools are putting up what are their needs. That's the platform that is there.
Yeah.
So what is needed is, where UNICEF kind of organization comes is, how do you bridge the gap of trust deficit? So the challenge is there is a trust deficit between the people with intent and people who have the money. So I think that is where organizations like us come in and say, okay, we'll convene both sides, and then we'll be the support saying that money will go to the right people.
Got it. Well, thank you so much. I think there's been though some incongruent voices, but I think heart is beating the right place is what I felt across the inputs. And I think the idea of having an acute challenge and vision, the way you want to define it, whether it is for sporting outcomes, Olympics, or non-sporting outcomes, right? And having some kind of a collective at the back, credibility coming from policymakers, government, and parties like UNICEF and others involved in that for the trust deficit he spoke of, and a collective or corporate who can pull in money to have a catalytic effect kind of a thing. So that's some summary of, but thank you so much. It's been wonderful, wonderful having you here. And I would just like you to stay back and maybe invite Samal to again felicitate before we wrap this up. Thank you so much again. Yeah, so the participation piece, he reminded me of that again because of time. Again, we are guilty of not getting the kids' voice involved here. But
I think during lunchtime we'll catch it.
Sure. If you can come in the front, please. Thank you. I would like to invite Nishant for the last segment of the day before we wrap.
Thanks, sir.
So I would invite Arif to come up and give the awards for the CSR kids that we have here.
So we would like to give away the Sport for Change Achiever Awards for a few athletes who are here today, who despite circumstances have shown great determination in excelling in their sporting journey. So to give away the award, let me invite Parmendra on stage, please. So the first few students whom we will be giving the awards are from the Latent View CKL program. And I would also like Purnima and Marlon also to join us on stage while we are giving these awards. So first award goes to A. Balamurugan. Balamurugan is a young footballer who trains under the CKL program. He got selected for the India Kelo Football National Final Trials in the year 2022. And he was awarded a one-year scholarship at the Alpha Football Academy in Patna. He's currently engaged in a high-performance training program with Chennai and FC. Congrats, Bala. The next award goes to Jarish Yadav. Jarish is also part of the CKL program, a budding football player who is represented at the zonal level. He's currently at the High Performance Training Center at the Chennai and FC. He's also got selected for the India Kelo Football Zonal Trials and also participated in the national finals in Ahmedabad last year. Next, I would like to invite Marwa Farzeen AH. Marwa is also a very talented football player, part of the CKL program. She was part of the winning team of the zonal level football tournament. She was the highest scorer in the current season of Chennai Kalpant League. She is also currently training in the high performance program of Chennai and FC. Thanks Purnima and Merlin. Next, we would like to invite a couple of students from the Sagility program. Would like to Parminder to stay back. And may I please request Victor to join on stage, please. So first, I would like to invite S. Karthikeyan. Karthikeyan is a student of Government Higher Secondary School, Alapakam. He's shown tremendous potential and secured second place in the 400-meter athletics event at the district level. Congrats, Karthikeyan. Next, I would like to invite M. Shankari, a student of Government Higher Secondary School, Madurai, part of the Sagility Sports for Change program. Through her hard work and dedication, she was selected to represent at district level for 100-meter hurdles and high jump. Thanks, Victor. Thanks, Parminder. And congrats to the award winners. I hand it over back to Nishant.
Thank you, Arif. We'll continue with the school awards. I would like to invite Saumil and Padma ma'am on stage for felicitation. So next up is SBOS School and Junior College, Anna Nagar. We have Yogan, Navanita, Bala, Maitri, Vidur, Meghana, Esther, Trinetran. May I also invite the school representative to join us on the stage, please. Thank you. Do we have a school representative? Yeah, please, ma'am. Can we have a round of applause for these young champs? Thank you. Next is Heartfulness International School, Omega branch. From there we have Aradhya, Jnanaprakasham, Idant, Yagya, Niketan and Harshita. Can we have the school representative to join us on the stage? Thank you. Next we have PSBB T Nagar. From there we have Anirudh, Arya, Skanda, Kaira, Ritik, Shravanti, Vishrut, Vanshika, Anantesh, Padmakshi, Jhalak and Rishabh. Thank you. Next is SBOA Global School, Annanagar. We have Siddharth, Ritanya, Dishwant Raj, Rityajan, Kanishk and Vita. Thank you. Next we have SV High School, Arambakam. From there we have Havish, Nazara, Shashwant, Hanya, Vihan and Tanvi. May I also request school representative from the school to kindly join us on the stage. Thank you. I now invite PSBB KK Nagar. Students are Nikhil, Satvika, Tarun, Aparajita, Vedant, Vidyut, Hridaya, Vishwajit, Aradhya, Dakshan, Minakshi, Jia, Manaswini. Do we have a school representative? Yeah. Thank you. I invite Sri Shankara Vidyashram Matriculation Higher Secondary School, Tiruvanmiyur. Students are Dev Vishnu, Hasini, Jeshwant, Rakshana, Dhanvant and Yahini. Thank you. Now we have KSN School, Tiruvanmiyur. I invite the students and the school coordinator to kindly come up on the stage. Varshit, Advaitshri, Ruchika, Amit, Mugilini, and NEIL. Thank you. Finally, we have Sri Shankara Senior Secondary School, Adyar. I invite the students and the school coordinators, Samartha, Spurti, Adhavan, Mridani, Adrit, Spruti, Vrushank, Parnita, Yashwant, Smruti, Akshay, and Ananya. Thank you. And I invite Parminder to give the closing address, please.
Thank you. Anyway, thank you once again. It's a beautiful, wonderful session today. And like I mentioned that we will be taking all these inputs, insights from here, acting as a catalyst and getting it to the right people beyond the platform here. We have a partner, Sports and Society Accelerator, who would be working with us to take these insights out. Would once again like to thank all the panelists and all the award winners for being here and the Sports Village team. And finally, a special thanks to IIT Madras for hosting this event and their broader support to the cause of youth sports. Would like to acknowledge this Ramesh and Lakshmi, if she's here, and felicitating them for helping us with this wonderful platform that we've had.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you. We have lunch waiting outside. Until next Get Kids to Play Summit next year. Thank you all and have a wonderful day.
So lunch is arranged 200 meters away from this place in the campus cafeteria. There are buggies around outside the auditorium. You can use them to commute till the campus cafeteria. It's on the second floor of the campus cafeteria. Thank you.